What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to tell you about my $2 cube draft. Normally I do deck tech videos for 2DH, a format we created to have a new meta for Commander and to make the game more accessible to new players and players on a budget. But today I'm going to show off what I created to help introduce players to the format, to get familiar with what kind of cards are going to fit the budget restriction of $2 or less. And this cube draft we've probably done about 100 times now, and it's been pretty successful. Definitely had some tweaks to it. Cubes are always changing, and it's kind of a legendary, kind of a tribal cube, a little bit of Johnny stuff in there, but also a lot of good, powerful stuff to show off. So I'll just kind of go over each color, the major archetypes within the color and color combinations. So mono white has soldiers. I try to put as many relevant legendary creatures as I could for each color combination. Leading the white group, we've got Odric. Makes the token strategy really strong, spreading out. Makes it kind of impossible for your opponents to block or interact with you once you hit a critical mass of creatures. Anna Fenza, she's really good for kind of the white weenie strategy. Commander Isha is good if you can suit her up with something and kind of go a Voltron route, since nothing can block her. And then you've got Hixus. He can be kind of more of a mid-range threat. So really what we're looking to do in this is power out a bunch of dirt cheap 2/1s and 2/2s with first strike and things like that. This card kind of ties it together, makes them a little more affordable. You got a lot of value cards that can kind of start taking over the game if they get an early hit in. So on the play, things like Precinct Captain and Topin Freeblade are really tough to deal with. And then you've got more flexible cards that can also go in a controlling style deck. Azorius Arrestor is kind of a nice speed bump. All around, mono white has a lot of tools for combat, but not a lot of ramp and not a lot of 2-for-1s. So you need things like Precinct Captain to kind of sneak soldiers into play, get through some value. Captain of the Watch is the ideal thing to sneak into play with this. This has been accomplished a couple times in the cube. Really fun to do. This is just a great finisher. Soltari Champion, not a very popular card. It has Shadow, so it's going to buff all of your creatures, and it can't be blocked. Archetype of Courage gives everything first strike. You've got, we're digging deep here, folks. Daru War Chief makes your soldier spells cheaper and buffs their toughness even more than their power, so Celestial Crusader, great in the mono white build. The Flash is also nice as a combat trick. Honor of the Pure, kind of the idea here is, you know, you make a bunch of tokens and then you start playing anthem effects like this to get through your opponent's blockers. Citadel Siege is a massive bomb in any deck. It can totally steal the game, and occasionally you can jam this in a control deck too. Cathar's Crusade, I mean, it's kind of like cart before the horse, but if you can ramp into this and then start dropping multiple creatures, you should be able to run away with the game. And then some artifacts that we have to support the aggro archetypes are Signal Pest, Hall of Triumph, which is really good in mono white. It's also good in the mono red deck. Hero's Blade to help support all these legendary creatures you're going to see. Inquisitor's Flail to double the damage of one creature. Bone Splitter is a nice early extra power. And Grafted War Gear is another piece of equipment I've found that can help the aggro builds. So that's mono white. Mono red is a little more on the goblin theme. Some legendary creatures you've got there is Ib Halfheart, really nice at pushing the damage through. Your opponents can't really block your goblins easily. Tuk Tuk is pretty bad, but there's enough ways to sacrifice him or get value out of him to get that 5/5, and it's just funny to run cards like this. Morton Stromgald, I've never been able to say this right, lesser known card. When he attacks, all of your guys get their power and toughness boosted. So a little bit of a setup, kind of a delayed strategy, but very effective at breaking up that mid-game. Famiko is one of the only effects I have that makes your opponent's creatures attack you, so it's an interesting card. And Kazul, a little bit more of a mid-range deck, not really for the aggro deck, more for the mid-range deck, but pretty funny card. I mean, I had a game I played against this, and I was just like, I cannot beat this. I mean, I was playing white weenies, and I just could not beat this card. Frenzied Goblin helps you so your opponents can't block. Goblin Arsonist trades with just about anything when it dies. Bushwhacker can help chew through your opponent's recruiter's really cool card. There's a ton of goblins in here that you can stack on top of your deck once you've got some lands already. War Driver, just to help with the kind of the going wide strategy. Dragon Fodder and Kranko's Command and Hordling Outburst. We're just making all of the 1/1 tokens we can. War Chief's going to give him haste, make him cheaper. Beetleback Chief, another kind of a token spam. Siege Gang, really great finisher. Just powerhouse card. This is first pickable. And really helps round out the goblin theme here. I try to jam some of these changelings in here because they can kind of help with any of the tribal themes. So if you're in a soldier deck, Torian Mauler is a soldier. If you're in the zombie deck, Torian Mauler is a zombie. He's obviously always a goblin in the red deck and can help you run away with the game. Really cool card. Fanatic Amogus, nice finisher for mono red. And then some cards to kind of support pushing the rest of that damage through. You've got Rogue's Passage in the cube, Whisper Silk Cloak, Trailblazer Boots, usually gives something unblockable. And then this is a lesser known card, it's really cool. You just kind of jump your guy, so you can just help push through the rest of that damage by giving a little bit of evasion. On the blue side of things, we're a little bit slower, but blue is always overpowered. So for blue, we gave it kind of a wizard theme. There are a ton of incidental wizards, so I figured a zombie would be a good legendary creature to run in this, even though she seems like she'd be pretty bad. There's a lot more wizards than you'd expect. So we've got Talran, Sky Summoner, pretty obvious include here for the Izzet decks or the control decks, blue-white. Luzon is actually a soldier, so you get a little value there off your precinct captain. You gotta love some horsemanship, and this card's pretty fine. I mean, getting an extra card every turn is nothing to complain about, right? So helping to tie together the wizard theme, we've got Stony Brook Banneret, which makes them cheaper. Sage's Dousing is going to let you draw a card when you counter their spell. Aether Adept and Separatist Void Mage are going to give you that tempo that you need when you're on the defense and give you a nice little speed bump there against the aggro decks. You've got Yu-Yo as a finisher. Also really cool, you know, just copying spells. This is kind of a fan favorite. Thalicos Deceiver. We actually tried to nerf Izzet just a little bit. It was a little bit too strong, and so I cut Control Magic for this card just to make it a little bit more difficult. And it is also cool because it's a wizard, so there you go. We're living the dream here. Biden of Thassa. This is one of those kind of mid-rangey cards. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes you can use the activated ability to get some value. It's just a cool card. I like having it in the cube. Dungeon Guys, a great way to just lock down somebody's Voltron creature or bomb that they have. And also a nice little speed bump, and it can be a finisher as well. These cards are supposed to be for the Proliferate deck, so let me set those aside. Everyone's favorite deck in the cube. Helping out with the control strategy, you've got Perilous Mirror as another speed bump, Silent Arbiter to slow down the mass aggro going wide strategies. Stuffy Doll, another speed bump, just a really cool card that can make your opponents have to choose carefully how they attack. And then Serrated Arrows, not a card that I really ever thought of as putting in the cube, but somebody told me it was great for cubes, and I ran it, and people have been getting a ton of value out of it. So there you have the base blue cards. Blue generally wants a second color, so mono blue isn't really something I like purposely try to design for, but you can see if blue's your base and you get the wizards going, you can have a little fun. On the green side, of course, we're going to have some elves here. Dwynnin is going to buff them all. It's going to give you some life back. You've got Surok to help you with all those mid-range strategy. Your kind of green-red monster decks are going to love Surok and Pelucranos, and green-white loves its mana sinks. Just all that mid-range value out of green. So Yeva helps with the elf theme. Really fun card. Filthy Casuals, just love all these cards. I'm one of them sometimes. Sakura Tribe Elder, Priest of Titania. I mean, these are the ramp cards that you would expect. Not a lot of people would realize that Priest is under $2, but she was printed in Commander. So one of the more powerful cards. As you know, if you have an elf base, you can kind of go really any color you want. You're going to be able to ramp and kind of splash into something. But we've got some fun elf themes going on. Timberwatch buffs their power toughness. Elvish Archdruid is going to... it's another lord, and it also lets them all, or lets you tap for lots of mana. Champion of Lambol, goes in just about any of the green decks. There's not really a green control deck, I would say, but Champ is just one of those cards that it doesn't read that well, but once you play with it, it's a really fantastic card. You just your opponents just can't do anything about it sometimes. Magistrate, adding some 1/1 counters. Null Mage Shepherd just for some artifact and enchantment hate, and then another one of those cool changelings. So Chameleon Colossus is a really good elf. Increasing Savagery, nice little mana sink for green. It can go in most strategies, and the flashback lets you get some value late. To support the green strategies, we've got Conjurer's Closet, which is mostly good in like green-white or green-black. There's a lot of ETB creatures in the cube. This card is arguably first pickable because you can build a strategy around it. Hellkite, one of those great cards to ramp into, can answer a lot of questions. Battlesphere, Bane of Beligad. I mean, this is just your 7-drop value that the green decks can often get to where other decks can't. And then Ulamog's Crusher is in there as well, either to be ramped into or reanimated. So mono green is doable. Elves are very strong. People draft them a lot because they ramp, so it's hard to get the whole elf deck, but sometimes you can do it. Hirobi's Death's Wail is a really cool card. If you've never played with this, give it a shot sometime. It's really fun just to be able to target things. I have a deck that runs Dismiss into Dream that does as much as it can to target creatures, and this is kind of the leader of the Mono Black Beats deck. Mono Black is mostly based on zombies, but I don't have a zombie legend in here, unfortunately. Nephro, really good finisher in Mono Black. First pickable, I would say. It's a great finisher. Black's good at finishing games. Cards like Draina are just powerhouses. I mean, this card's just so good. And then Black has access to some pretty good discard spells. Hymn to Turok and Hypnotic's Spectre. These cards are under $2. They're very effective in one-on-one games. They can give your opponent some real headaches. Black's going to have lots of removal. You've got cards like Dismember. I'll just mention this now. I try to include as many of these kind of Phyrexian mana cards or hybrid cards as I could so that it was easy to draft playables in your colors. But if you're in mono black, Dismember is good whether you're paying the 4 life or not. It's even better when you're not. Necrotal and Skinrender, just really great 2-for-1 card advantage cards in black. And then you've got some stuff like Butcher Ghoul, Fleshbag Marauder, give you a little bit of synergy here. Liliana's Reaver, one of the better zombies that you can run. It's one of those runaway engines. If somebody's not blocking it every turn, they're in trouble, and it's great on defense as well. Grey Merchant, kind of an auto-include here for mono black. Call to the Grave is a really awesome card. If you can get some zombies in play and land this card, your opponent is going to have a really hard time winning the game because they're sacking a creature each turn, and you're still having your zombies deal damage, even if it's 2 at a time. Black's great at recurring things. You got Ghoul Raiser, Gravedigger to round out some of the zombie theme. A lot of the themes are going to bleed over into the 2-color combinations, so if they seem a little light, just wait till you see what we got next. One of the decks that I really had to push for this cube, because I really want it to work, I think it's super fun, is Simic Proliferate. So leading the charge there, we've got Prime Speaker Zagana, just a value machine, and Varela the Whole Clade. Late game mana sinks, that's what Limited's all about. That's how you're going to win games, is having something to do with your mana. You got Fathom Mage as a draw engine, along with Zamet Guildmage to help get value out of your 1/1 counters. You've got some graph triggers, some activated abilities. You've got Lore Scale Quaddle, it's just going to get bigger every turn. Skyraider Elf, some nice evasion there. And then, like I said, we really try to push this. So we've got Hardened Scales in there. You saw some of the green creatures had 1/1 counters when they enter play. You're going to see lots of Evolve and games that you can play with 1/1 counters. You've got some Infect in there. Just a lot of stuff you can do with 1/1 counters. The decks are really fun to play. Just watching that incremental growth happen as you're building your board state and playing things like Cytoplast Rootkin. Phyrexian Hydras can also go in the green-red monster deck. Just try to throw all the Infect cards in here so you can kind of see what I'm going for. And then Sapperling Burst is in here because you can add the fading counters to it as you're proliferating. And then going up the blue curve here, you got Raptor, Blighted Agent with Infect. Thrumming Bird is one of the major cards in this deck. It's almost a must-have if you're going to do the Proliferate theme. Sage of Fables is great in the Wizard deck. It's going to make them bigger, and when you're playing blue, you know, drawing cards is usually a good idea. But its real home is in this Proliferate deck here, as it's just one of those machines to draw you cards. Gambit's a great card. If you're not playing Proliferate, you can still draft this and just have it as a divination that costs you a couple life. Parallax Tide's another one of those cards. You don't have to be in the Proliferate deck. This card is really difficult for your opponents to fight through. You're basically just taking their mana away from them for a few turns while you're still developing your board. Feel for the Cause. I mean, yeah, it's a 4-mana counterspell, but you get to Proliferate, man. I mean, come on, let's do this. We're cube drafting here. Viral Drake is a great way to finish the game out. If you can sink mana into it, you're just gonna take away the game from your opponent. Really fun deck. Everyone makes fun of me for this deck, but this deck's sweet. You got Inexorable Tide as the card for the deck. You just run away with the game once you land it. And then Corrupted Conscience obviously can go in any blue deck. Everybody wants this card. It's first pickable, but it's got Infect, so I threw it in this one. So we really pushed the Proliferate deck. We've got Astral Cornucopia as a ramp spell, Contagion Clasp, Grafted Exoskeleton, Plague Mirror, and Ever-Flowing Chalice. So come force draft Proliferate, you'll have a good time. Moving on to Black-White Enchantments, one of my favorite archetypes. Leading the pack is Daxos the Returned. We've also got Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim as a new card. I've actually seen this get online more than once in the cube draft. Black-White has plenty of life gain, and this will win you the game if you get it online. So Bloodcurse Knight, really sweet card. 4/3 with lifelink is just insane if you have an enchantment. Gift of Orzhova, 1,000 Lashes. We jammed as many enchantments that were reasonable as we could in here. And then we also just got some good stuff, you know, Utter End, Lingering Souls, Animate Dead, cards that you would always play in a cube. Brain Maggot, great card. Notice that these are enchantment creatures, so they're going to trigger and help with the enchantment theme. Night Howler, nice little finisher. Stab Wound, great removal spell. Doomwake Giant, I mean, such a good card. Just a 4/6, deal with it. Palace Siege to give you either a win con with the life loss, or just trying to get you back in the game by getting your creatures back. And then we didn't jam a ton of wrath effects. We tried to keep them on theme, so Extinguish All Hope is in here to hopefully destroy all of your opponent's creatures while leaving a couple of yours in play. White is going to love the Pacifism effects, the O-Ring effects. Sphere of Safety is one of the best cards you can have in this deck. Spectre Ward, great on defense, great on offense. And Sigil of the Empty Throne rounds out the black-white portion of the enchantments. Now, one of the reasons I really wanted to do this cube was I wanted a legendary cube. I wanted all 5 Hondens. They're really playable in 2DH. People have argued that the Honden deck isn't real in the cube, but every time I've drafted it, I've had enough fun that I didn't care if it wasn't real. It's real to me, man. So I'm leading off with some of my favorite archetypes here. As you can tell, I'm a little bit of a Johnny. I can't help myself. Next up, we've got the mill strategy. It's either blue-black zombies or blue-black mill. And leading the pack for those two sub-themes are Grim Corpseborn on the zombie side. You can sack a creature, put a counter on it, swing, and destroy a defending creature. So some of that fodder I showed you earlier in the earlier creatures are really good with this guy. Alternatively, you can just use Mirko Vosk as your finisher. This guy doesn't usually have to swing and connect that many times to put the game away. You got some really good value cards in here like Faraway, Nightville Spectre, and then you've got some stuff to support the sub-themes like Whispering Madness, Diagraph Captain. Possessed Scab's pretty bad, but I mean, you get something back, so it doesn't have to be that good, right? Black's got all the removal. You're going to need it if you're playing blue-black. It's kind of a slower deck, so Murderous Cut, Wretched Confluence. This card's really awesome. It's just a value engine. You can get creatures back, you can kill things, you can draw cards, whatever you want to do. Then you got a nice little board wipe here with Black Sun Zenith and I mean, don't forget to proliferate after you put those 1/1 counters on, right? Cruel Revival. I don't mind having this as an expensive removal spell. I think expensive removal spells are still playable, and this can be a 2-for-1 in the zombie deck, so it's pretty cool. Dark Petition, really neat card. Goes good in the blue-black deck since you're casting instants and sorceries more in blue. And Gurmag Angler, delve yourself a 5/5 zombie fish. White Precinct Captain gets bigger as your opponent mills. Oh, this guy was supposed to be in the mono blue pile, but that's okay. He's right here as a legendary creature. Great finisher. People hate on this card. I think it's fantastic. It protects itself. And then you've got Undead Alchemist, which it's really funny. Runaway Engine. You just keep getting more zombies. Geralf's Mind Crusher does some serious work, and it's a great body. And the Undying, I mean, it's just really good card if you can get to 6 mana. And then to help support the mill theme, you've got Sphinx's Tutelage and Traumatize. You don't always have to go all in on the mill theme. These can be finishers in a control deck, but they're all in here. And if you do get the whole mill deck, it's 3 of the draft a couple times. It's pretty strong. Next up is Azorius Control, led by Lavinia of the 10th. I love this card on defense. I love this card on offense. It's just an awesome card. It's great with Conjurer's Closet. It's great with the blink effects that you'll see in the Selesnya deck. You've also got Noyan Dar Royal Shaper. I think this card is kind of garbage, but it's a 5-mana 4/4. It's a merfolk, so it's cheaper with that other blue card. It's not very good, and and it could be a control finisher. I mean, I don't know. It should be fine. Azorius Guildmage, however, is a fantastic card. This is one of those cards that doesn't read that well, but it does so much work. Just an awesome card. I actually countered a Draina activation with it one time, and then tapped Draina and then swung, and I will forever be impressed by this card since then. Reflector Mage, great tempo. Just love this card. It's a wizard. Wallet Denial. Everybody loves a good Wallet Denial. Swans of Bryn Argol. Really sweet card. I mean, do whatever you want with it. It's a 4-mana 4/3 flyer that can beat face, or you can be silly. It's up to you. Teferi's Moat. Really, really good card. If your opponent has all the same color creature, they're just like, okay, now what? So I think this is first pickable, this Teferi's Moat. It's not that good, but if you draft a strategy around it, it's pretty solid. Mana Tithe is in there because everyone loves Mana Tithe. And then white's got some pretty solid removal. Celestial Flare. Again, I didn't want to just put a bunch of board wipes in the cube, so Tragic Arrogance is in there. It's got a little more play to it, a little more interesting. Righteous Confluence. This card is a house. Oh my god. Just gaining 15 life and then letting the rest of your enchantments do all the work, or, you know, exiling some troublesome, pacifisms or whatever. Like, this card's awesome. Sunblast Angel is a wrath that I believe in because it will then finish the game. So this is the kind of stuff I try to put in the cube. For the counterspells, you've got Miscalc, Mana Leak, Condescend, some really good stuff. I have no problem with these being in the cube. They're not overpowered, and they make the control deck playable. As do Vapor Snag, Into the Royal. I mean, these are really good cards for blue. Mole Drifter, Riftwing. Aether Spouts is a serious card. This card feels real bad when you attack into it. And then I threw the Frost Titan in here with the Azorius deck because I think that that's the kind of finisher that Azorius wants. You don't need that many, but a Frost Titan will get the job done. While we're on the subject of control, we'll go over the Izzet deck. This is a deck I had to nerf just a little bit. It's still probably one of the best decks in the cube. It's led by Jory N and Niv Mizzet, which are just value machines. What else would you expect from an Izzet deck except value? I think people are familiar with all of these cards. Dax Duplicate is one of the best cards in the cube, I'm told. I'm not sure I believe it, but it has killed me a couple times, so maybe I should. I recently put in Mercurial Chemister. People tell me that this is a really good card. I haven't played with it yet. It looks like it does some stuff, though, so we'll see how it plays. And then you got Faithless Looting, Searing Spear. I mean, you just got some really good on-curve stuff. Cone of Flame. This card has been devastating in the cube. I mean, this is the kind of board wipe I like to have in the cube. This is a really cool card. And it's good for the aggro deck, too. It's not only for the control deck. Charmbreaker Devils has earned its spot in the cube. I finished games with this. Really sweet card. FTK, gotta have it. And then you got, cards to support things like Jorian and Noyandar, Impulse, Think Twice, Repulse. These are cards that you run in your Talrand deck, and they just get you that is it value, helping you dig for answers or threats or land drops or whatever it is. This is what Blue's all about. Treasure Cruising and Talrand's Invocation. Archaeomancer, fantastic card. Also a wizard. Pay attention there. Tribal theme. We've got Icefall Regent, just really great tempo card. The Is It deck sub-theme is basically like tempo. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, is just out-tempo your opponent, and these are the cards to do it with. Stolen Identity is one of my favorite cards, and it's a great finisher for the cube. All right, let's go for some green-red monsters for those who hate control and skipped ahead. Mina and Den and Rurik Thar are the leaders for this color combination. This is an elf, so just pay attention. We got tribal themes everywhere here. And Rurik Thar is a really good finisher. Generally speaking, they're not going to be able to block it profitably. So running it out there, you're probably going to get value out of it. It's probably going to help you finish the game. One of my favorite decks someone drafted was Mono Green Elves splashing Rurik Thar. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Pit Fight, nice little removal spell for Gruul. Again, I try to run these hybrid cards in the cube if I can. Bogart Ram Gang, really good in the Goblin deck for mono red. It's also a great beater in the Gruul deck. Gore Clan Rampager, just fantastic card. Love this card. Deus of Calamity is one of the bombs in the cube. People have to deal with this or they are going to be toast. I don't really like land destruction in the cube. I've got this guy, Acidic Slime, Parallax Tide, that's about it. I'm not a huge fan of land destruction in this kind of a cube. This is a little bit more for my casual buddies. Armed Dangerous, really cool finisher. Loved Armed with the Voltron guys. Voltron strategies, and then Dangerous is great for the kind of the overrun decks. So Mutagenic Growth oftentimes finds its way into like the mono red or mono white decks, but it has a home here in the Gruul deck. Prey Upon, another removal spell. Vines of Astwood, this card is impressive. I mean, once I played with this card, I was like, yes, I want that in every green deck ever. This card's awesome because you can target your opponent's creatures as well. So really cool, great value, great combat trick, all around great card. I went ahead and threw some of the ramp spells into this deck to show off because I think that's where they really can be best, is in the green-red aggressive strategy where you quickly ramp into creatures. Somber Walled Sage, and then the next turn you've got a Wolfir Silverheart, and your 2/2's now a 6/6. I mean, this really strong, fast deck that you can draft. And Enlarge is a very underrated card in my opinion. It must be blocked is the part that really puts this card over the top because it plays like a removal spell and it gets through a ton of damage. Protean Hydra, really sweet card. I put it in this deck because it's got the X in the cost there. So in the late game, you can just make a big giant one. Reckless Charge, really great when your opponent thinks that they're safe and they tap out for an enchantment. They think that the game's going to go long, and then you play something nasty and give it haste and +3/+0. You got a couple other haste enables here. Lightning Mauler, Ogre Battle Driver, really sweet cards in this deck. And then you've got Zealous Conscripts to help put away the game, along with Inferno Titan, which is what you want to be ramping into. This is first pickable. This card's awesome. Slagstorm is great for this deck because a lot of times you have big booty creatures and they've got a bunch of chump blockers, and it can also just be 3 to the face to help finish the game, along with Molten Disaster. If they're at 10 and you're at 15 and you've got the mana, you can just finish the game right then and there. So love me some Gruul. Gruul is fun. We've got the Rakdos deck, which is going to borrow from the mono-red Goblin theme. There's a few black cards to help support this. One of them is Wart Bogart Auntie. She's going to get you goblins from your graveyard back to your hand, and you can recast them. Black's all about recursion. This red-black deck can go a couple different directions. It can go kind of pure aggro with finishers like Lysolda to help seal the deal and finish the game, or to get rid of blockers and push your big thing through. Or it can go kind of the more attrition-y, kind of bigger Rakdos deck. You've got a lot of support for both in here. Cackler and Ashamore Gouger are really good in either the mono-black or mono-red or Rakdos. decks. They're just really great beaters along with Murderous Redcaps. So lucky to have all these hybrid costs. For the Rakdos deck specifically, you've got Blightning, which is really devastating, especially if you know your opponent's down to just 2 cards, a 5 and a 6 drop that they're excited to cast next turn. It's just devastating card, and it's a great little finisher, pushing that damage through. And then Rakdos Return is arguably too powerful for the cube, but we're leaving it in there for now because everyone loves to Rakdos Return people for 3 or 4 and just wreck their day. You can also kind of go more the Goblin route, splashing red. So you got some great early pressure with Diregraph Ghoul. Warren Weirding is an edict effect that you can alternatively cast on yourself and sacrifice like Tuk Tuk the Explorer. Get some serious value there. That's on your bucket list for the cube. Nameless Inversion is a Goblin card because it says Changeling, so I believe you can get this with Recruiter. You can get it back with Bogart Auntie. Then you got Mad Auntie over here as a Goblin Lord and also a protection for your goblins. Deck Demon, really good card. There are decks that can beat it. It's not always amazing, but when it's good, it's devastating. I mean, if you're pushing through damage with your 2/1s and your 3/3s, and your opponent has to sack a creature or take 6 more, it's really brutal. Herald of Torment, nice little finisher. This is another one of those enchantment creatures, so you can kind of put it in several different decks. But for 5 mana, given something flying, and +3/+3 is pretty strong. I love me some Searing Blood in the Rakdos deck. Get rid of a blocker, push 3 more damage, swing your guys through. I mean, really fun deck to play, this aggro deck. Volley's really easy to trigger in this deck. Something's always dying. You've got 1/1 tokens dying or something in combat. Chandra's Phoenix is just a little finisher. You can get it back with a lot of the different red spells that we have, and some of the ones in this deck, like Rakdos Return and Blightning. And then finally, we've got Goblin Bombardment, along with Active Treason and Active Aggression as finishers, and Sulfuric Vortex is usually really good in the Rakdos Suicide deck. You are probably not going to be dead before they are. Alright, just a couple more guilds to go here. We've got the Golgari Elf deck. So Elf base is strong with just about anything, but one way that you can go if you're getting some good black cards is you can go Golgari Elves and have a little bit of recursion and some finishers in here. So Jared and Virals are trying to kind of salvage what's not good anymore. For Golgari, we've got a little extra ramp. This is a zombie elf, so I had to include it to stay on theme here. Consume Strength is an absolute beating. This card plays way better than it reads. It doesn't seem that good, but in combat it does wonders. You can 2 or 3 for 1 your opponents with this. You've got Life Death is either a finisher or a recursion spell. I tried to include as many of these split cards as I could. Shaman of the Pack to deal some damage there. I suppose it's actually loss of life, but just another kind of a elf theme card to help finish up the sub-theme there. Karazda Guildmage is an elf shaman. She can give something Intimidate, or she can sacrifice a creature to Elves of Deep Shadow. Deals a damage to you, but helps you ramp out early. Elvish Visionary for the early body. You've got the overrun effects once you've built up all these creatures. You've got Verdant Confluence, great utility card. You can use it to ramp if that's really what you're into. Generally, you're going to make some things bigger, or you're going to get some permanents back from your graveyard to your hand. Another card to help push through is Bloodthrone Vampire. You can sack your irrelevant elves during combat to make it really tricky math for your opponent. Deadbridge Shaman is an elf. When it dies, they discard a card. It's great on the in the aggro decks too as a 3/1 body. Victimize, great recursion card. Sacrifice an irrelevant elf, get back your bomb that got countered or destroyed. You got Grim Haruspect so that you're drawing cards after as all of your things are dying. Ghostly Changeling, another one of those cards. It can be anything on theme, so it can be an elf or a zombie or whatever you want it to be, and it's just another little mana sink for this deck. Whip of Erebos gives you amazing recursion. The lifelink is so good. I mean, this card's just super playable. It's almost first pickable because of the lifelink. It almost always wins you the race with this card. And then all the ETB creatures that you can get value out of too. Eyeblight Massacre is a really Cute card to help you stay on theme with your elves here. It makes it really impossible for your opponents to block that turn if you're swinging with things, and it generally isn't going to kill your stuff. It's going to kill some of their goblins or whatever. It's also fine in the control decks. And then Gilt-Leaf Winnower, one of the better elves. Nice 4/3 body. It's got menace, and it usually kills something when it enters play. All right, those are the elves. Just two left here. I've got continuation of the soldier/token deck here with Boros. We've got Tajik, which is just a house when you've got other things swinging. Indestructible means he's going to stick around usually quite a while. Kalemny, a little bit more of the Voltron package. This kind of highlights the two different routes you can go with Boros, depending on how wide you want to go and what you're able to draft in the cube. Figure of Destiny can win games on its own. Card's super good. Double Cleave. I love the hybrid cost here. Again, it helps all of the aggro decks. Hearthfire Hobgoblin is a goblin soldier with double strike, so we are getting there with this casual cube here. Order Chaos, really cool card. I didn't know this existed until I built the cube. Chaos is a very good finisher, and Order is great in the control deck or in the mid-range game. Assemble the Legion, a little slower, not really part of the aggro deck. You can splash it in your enchantment deck, or you can use it as a finisher in sort of a big Boros deck. Firefist Striker helps crossover with the soldier theme. It makes it so things can't block. You've got Madcap Skills, which is just a beating. This card is so good. It's first pickable good. Trumpet Blast to help with the token overrun. Hellrider is an absolute devastating card. It just wins the game. It's too fast. Tears of Rage is kind of like the all-in finisher for the token deck. Sometimes you just have to do it, even if you're in the mid-game, because you just have to trade for what your opponent has, but generally this is a finisher. A little bit underdrafted in my opinion. Fury Stoke Giant, another finisher for red. This is exactly what the Boros deck wants when it makes a whole bunch of creatures and they are having a hard time swinging through. This is one of the only ways to beat like Teferi's Moat or Kazul is with a card like this to finish the game off. And then I threw Stoke the Flames in here because of the Convoke. I think it's easier to cast in the Boros deck, and great card all around. Quarter Paladin, Raise the Alarm, just to kind of help with the red-white token theme going wide. You've got Spirit Heliod in here because it gives all creatures, not just white creatures, +1/+1. Mirror Entity, another changeling. It's a goblin, it's a soldier, it is a finisher. You just sink your mana into it, and your opponent cannot block profitably. Captain's Call, gotta have it in there to support the token deck. Triplicate Spirits, if anyone ever played this in Limited, it's an insane card. It's really hard to beat 3/1/1 flyers, especially if you're playing Anthems after that. And then Boros can be a little more mid-rangey. This card is great at protecting your Voltron guy or getting rid of your opponent's, Pelukronos or something the turn they cast it, so you can keep pushing that damage through. And finally, we have our Selesnya Guild, led by Selvala, Explorer Returned. She helps with the ramp theme. She helps your aggro mid-range deck not run out of cards. And if you are going to get 2-for-1s or get more value out of your cards, or you have more synergy, then it's good for you to both have cards because you're going to be able to cast them before your opponent is, and the life gain is going to give you a little bit of time to do that. Great finisher for the deck. One of the best cards in the cube is Dramoka the Eternal. This is sort of just a value deck. It has some synergy with the +1/+1 stuff, and it has a lot of ETB effects. But green-white is just all about the mid-range. You've got utility cards like Sundering Growth, Dauntless Escort, great on offense, great on defense. It's a soldier, pay attention there. And then we've also got Elf Scout over here. So we're getting there, we're getting there. Oh, this one's an elf and a soldier, and a mana sink, which is kind of where I think green-white can take over the game, is with mana sinks. Armada Worm is one of the best ETB effects. Just getting 10 power for 6 mana. If you can ramp into this, the game's going to be over pretty quickly. You've got Avacyn's Pilgrim to help you get there. Rex Sage, Conclave Naturalist, Acidic Slime, these are all there to deal with pacifisms and Corrupted Conscience and Sphere of Safety and all those frustrating enchantments. Also great to just take out a Signet that your opponent needs, so a lot of value here. Brutalizer X Art can either go get you your bomb, or it can get rid of a non-creature permanent. Woodland Bellower, this card is a value machine. Talk about an ETB effect. It's a 6/5 for 6 that gets you a Champion of Lambolt, or Lore Scale Coatl, or your Rhino Soldier guy that I mentioned over here. I mean, it gets so many different things. It gets you Wood Elves so that you're just ramping into oblivion, and then you follow up with your Hornet Queen. So green-white's all about mid-range value. It's the most straightforward deck. It's not super exciting. It has some play to it, though, with cards like Cloud Shift. This card's really impressive. I've gotten tons of value out of Cloud Shift in my 2DH decks. Great to blank a removal spell. Great as a semi-combat trick. Great to blink ETBs like War Priest of Thune, destroying enchantments even more. Flicker Wisp and Glimmerpoint Stag. These are great utility cards. You can flicker your own thing, or you can take a blocker out of the way for the turn to aggro tempo your opponents out. And then you got some finishers like Cloud Goat Ranger and High Sentinels of Arishin. These cards are just super playable in any deck that wants any value whatsoever. They just go in every deck. They're so good. And the mana sinks is where it's at. So you've seen in the Proliferate deck all the Evolve and all the green creatures that enter with 1/1 counters. Elite Scale Guard and High Sentinels are two really good finishers in that deck. So if you're green splashing white, these are two cards to look out for. So that kind of ties together the cube. You might have noticed it's a little bit of a Johnny cube. It's kind of a casual tribal cube, but there's some really powerful cards, and it shows off the power and the fun of 2DH. If you guys want a cube, hit me up on Facebook. You can add yourself to the group on the link below. You can also check out all of our other deck tech videos for the 2DH format. Thanks for watching.